They've convinced us that balance is enlightenment. But consider this. Every revolutionary idea in human history came from someone who refused to be balanced. Every meaningful change emerged from those who were called extreme, not from the moderates, not from the balanced. When they say find your balance, what they're really saying is stay in your lane. Don't rock the boat. Don't disturb the system that keeps them in power. Look around you, the balanced life they're selling you. It's a cage with comfortable furniture. You've been told that balance is freedom, but I'm here to suggest something radical. Balance is the most sophisticated prison ever created. What does balance actually mean in our world today? It means work hard but not too hard. Be ambitious but don't threaten the status quo. Question things but not the things that matter. Express yourself but within acceptable parameters. In other words, be free, but only this free, no more. When you think about it, balance as it's sold to us is just a way to keep us tame, predictable, manageable. It's the ultimate control mechanism because it comes disguised as wisdom. Who would question something so seemingly enlightened? But here's what they don't want you to realize. True growth rarely happens in balance. It happens in extremes, in pushing boundaries, in obsession, in the wild pursuit of something that consumes you. The Wright brothers weren't balanced. Einstein wasn't balanced. Picasso wasn't balanced. Malcolm X wasn't balanced. They were obsessed. They were extreme in their pursuits. And that's exactly what scares the system. People who refuse moderation are unpredictable. They change games, they flip tables, they create new worlds. Have you ever wondered why nearly every spiritual tradition involves some form of fasting, or isolation, or staying awake for days? It's because transformation happens at the edges, not in the comfortable middle. Now, I'm not saying you should destroy yourself. Self-destruction isn't the goal, but the sterile, calculated balance they're selling you isn't the answer either. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this when he wrote, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Not balance, chaos. The most profound human experiences happen when we're out of balance. Falling in love, creating art, fighting for justice, having a child, grieving a loss. These transformative moments don't happen in moderation. Think about the advice you've received about work-life balance. It's always framed as a personal failing if you don't achieve it. But have you considered that maybe the problem isn't you? Maybe it's a system that demands your labour, your attention, your energy, and then blames you for not balancing properly within impossible constraints. Work-life balance is just corporate jargon for adjust yourself to exploitation without complaining too loudly. The concept of balance is particularly insidious because it places the burden of adjustment on you, not on the systems that create imbalance in the first place. Consider how we talk about political balance and moderation. The so-called middle ground is presented as the mature, reasonable position. But what does that actually mean when one extreme is fascism and the other is basic human rights? What does balance look like then? As Howard Zinn pointed out, you can't be neutral on a moving train. The middle ground between justice and injustice is still injustice. The appeal to balance is often just a way to pacify those who might otherwise demand fundamental change. Think about how we're told to have a balanced diet. But our food system is flooded with addictive processed foods designed to override our natural satiety signals. The problem isn't our lack of balance, it's a deliberately imbalanced system. The same goes for our balanced media diet. In a landscape of algorithmic feeds designed to maximize engagement through outrage, the problem isn't that we lack personal discipline. The problem is that we're swimming in systems designed to exploit our psychology. Even our concept of emotional balance deserves scrutiny. We're told to maintain emotional equilibrium at all times. Not too angry, not too sad, not too ecstatic. But what if emotions aren't meant to be balanced? What if they're meant to be fully experienced? To rage, to weep, to exult? The philosopher Alan Watts understood this when he said, "You're under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago." Life isn't about maintaining a static equilibrium. It's about flow, about change, about transformation. The truth is, balance as we've been taught to understand it doesn't exist in nature. Nature doesn't do balance. It does cycles, seasons, death and rebirth, expansion and contraction. A forest doesn't try to maintain a perfect equilibrium. It burns, it floods, it freezes, it blooms. And through these extremes, it evolves. You are not a machine to be optimized. You're a living system, meant to experience the full spectrum of existence. The most telling thing about our culture's obsession with balance is who benefits from it. Who profits when you remain moderate in your demands? Who gains when you accept realistic compromises instead of insisting on transformation? The call for balance always seems to come from those who have the most to lose if things actually changed. Have you noticed how the people who have already climbed the ladder are suddenly very concerned about sustainable pacing for those trying to climb up now? Or how those in power are extremely concerned about civil discourse when their authority is challenged? The concept of balance is weaponized against those who dare to want too much, feel too deeply, or question too fundamentally. Don't be so extreme, they say. Find some balance. What they mean is stop making us uncomfortable. Stop challenging the status quo that serves us. In his letter from Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote about the white moderate who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. This is balance as control, the insistence that maintaining calm is more important than addressing wrongs. The most effective prison is one where the prisoners police themselves. And that's exactly what the ideology of balance accomplishes. It makes us the wardens of our own containment. We restrict our desires, temper our anger, moderate our joy, and limit our demands. All in the name of this quasi-religious concept called balance. And what do we get in return? The approval of those who benefit from our restraint. The temporary comfort of conformity. The false peace of surrender. But deep down we know something's missing. We feel the cage, even if we can't always name it. That's why so many people are burning out, checking out, or falling into despair. Because we're living in contradiction to our true nature. We're trying to live linearly in a cyclical universe. So what's the alternative? If balance is a cage, how do we live instead? Maybe it starts with honouring life's natural rhythms instead of fighting them. Maybe instead of forced equilibrium, we embrace the pendulum swing. Periods of intensity followed by periods of rest. Creation and fallow time. Connection and solitude. Maybe it means rejecting the idea that we need to be consistent at all times, that we need to show up with the same energy, the same productivity, the same mood day after day. Maybe it means recognizing that sometimes the most balanced thing is to be completely unbalanced. To throw yourself fully into something that matters to you, even if it looks extreme to others. Maybe it means understanding that different seasons of life call for different allocations of our energy. And that's not failure, that's human. As Oscar Wilde said, everything in moderation, including moderation. Even balance itself must sometimes be abandoned. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron offers insight here. Only to the extent that we expose ourselves over and over to annihilation can that which is indestructible be found in us. Growth happens at the boundaries, at the edges, in the spaces where we're stretched beyond what feels comfortable or balanced. Remember, balance itself isn't inherently bad. It becomes problematic when it's used as a tool to limit you, to keep you small, to prevent necessary disruption. The question isn't whether you should be balanced or imbalanced. The question is, who is defining what balance means for you, and what do they gain from your compliance? So the next time someone tells you to find balance, ask yourself, is this advice liberating me or is it containing me? Is it expanding my possibilities or narrowing them? Because true freedom isn't found in perfect equilibrium. It's found in the courage to swing wildly when it matters, to be still when needed, to overflow boundaries at times and create new ones at others. True freedom is the right to determine your own rhythms, not to conform to someone else's definition of what balanced living should look like. Perhaps the most rebellious thing you can do in a world obsessed with moderation is to be gloriously, unapologetically immoderate about the things that matter most to you. To love immoderately, to create immoderately, to fight for justice immoderately, to question immoderately. As Audre Lorde reminded us, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, and balance, as it's currently sold to us, is definitely the master's tool. So what's the answer? Not self-destruction, not toxic extremism, but perhaps a more honest acknowledgement of our cyclical nature, and a willingness to break free from the cage of false equilibrium when our souls demand it. Because in the end, a life of true aliveness isn't about finding perfect balance. It's about finding your truth and having the courage to live it, even when, especially when, it disrupts the comfortable equilibrium of a system that was never designed for your liberation in the first place. So I leave you with this challenge. What if instead of seeking balance, you sought integrity, wholeness, alignment with your deepest values? What would change if you released yourself from the cage of moderation and allowed yourself to be as intense, as passionate, as committed as your heart actually is. The world doesn't need more balanced people. It needs more people who are alive with purpose, awake to injustice, and unwilling to compromise on what matters most. Because when you think about it, in a world that's fundamentally out of balance, maybe balance isn't the answer. Maybe the answer is to be purposefully, powerfully and balanced in the direction of justice, of love, of truth. And perhaps that's the most balanced thing of all. Thank you for watching.